Well, hello. Today we are going to be continuing our endeavor to learn more about fractions, and you can think of this mostly as a review. Like we've done, today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting positive and negative fractions. So far in this unit, we've already done adding fractions, subtracting fractions, and in the past we've dealt with adding and subtracting negative integers. So we're just combining those two. Now, if you need more help with adding and subtracting fractions, I would suggest you go back and review some of the previous videos or find some additional help, because I'm going to assume that everyone's pretty comfortable getting common denominators on fractions. Okay, so remember, the first thing to think about is that whenever we're adding two fractions, if they're positive, they stay positive. If we're adding two negatives together, then they become negative. Think about this as like if you're already at negative 12 units on the number line and you want to go 26 more units to the left, then you end up at a very far number on the left. You end up with a very negative number. Or you can think of it as debt. You owe someone $12, you owe someone else $26, so in total you owe $38. It stays negative. This is not an instance where two negatives make a positive. Like, that would be great if it was, because then I could like buy a car for $20,000 and buy another car for $30,000, and all of a sudden they owe me $50,000. That would be incredible, but the world would be very weird. So that's not the case. Like, when you add negatives, you get a bigger negative. Okay? When you subtract numbers, you want to think about it in terms of whichever number has whichever number is larger, whichever the absolute value of it, that's going to retain the sign. Okay, so in a case like this one, if I have minus a negative, which we know minus a negative becomes plus a positive, so this is negative 21 plus 40. 40 is the larger number. 40 is positive, and so therefore the final answer is also positive. Okay. Here I've got 15 minus 51. Well, 51 is going to be the larger number, and you would think of this as though it's like a negative. So this one is larger and negative, and therefore our final answer is also going to be negative. Okay? So keep these in mind whenever we're working with fractions. You want to put the sign in the numerator, because we perform the operations on the numerator. Okay? And then you want to get common denominators, add or subtract just like always, keep the denominator the same, then simplify in the end. All right, let's get to it. Let's do a couple of these. So I see here I've got negative 2/3 plus negative 4/5. I know that my answer is going to be negative. I know that right away because I have a negative plus a negative. Okay. Next, I've got to get common denominators. So what I'll do is the common denominator between 3 and 5 is going to be 15. So I have this negative 2/3 and I have this negative 4/5, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply this one. I got to get these both to 15ths. So I'm going to multiply this one by 3/3, and I'll multiply this one by 5/5. Now, I just made these up. I made them up myself here, this right here, and this right here, but I did it so that the denominators would multiply to be 15. So 5 times negative 2 is negative 10/15. And 4 times 3 is a negative 12/15. Now I've got common denominators, so my answer will be 15ths. I've already decided it's going to be negative, and that's negative 22/15 for my final answer. You could change it into an improper fraction if you want. I usually don't. Okay, let's look over here. I've got a negative, a positive, negative. I don't know if this is going to be negative or positive, so I'm not going to make any decisions on that yet. But what I do see is 8, 4, and 6. Now, working with some LCDs, I know that my LCD for that is going to be 24. Go back if you don't know that, you're not sure how to do that, you gotta get some help elsewhere, because that's not a part of this video. But so what I'll do is I'll multiply this one times 3 over 3. I know that because I got to think 8 times what is 24, right? And then for the next one, I've got 3/4. What do I take times 4 to get to 24? Well, it's going to be a 6. So that's going to be, that will give me 8, oops, sorry. That'll give me an 18 on top, but I'm not doing that just yet. And then for this next one here, I've got -5/6. I've got to multiply that by 4 over 4. That's going to turn that one into 24ths, right? 8 times 3 is 24. Good. 4 times 6, 24. Yep. 6 times 4 is 24. Now I just do the tops. -9 plus 18 plus -20. There we go. What we've done now is we've changed each one of our fractions into another fraction, an equivalent fraction with a common denominator. So we've got this one here became this, right? We've got this guy here, 3/4. That became 18/24. And I've got -5/6. You'll see I put that negative sign right up here on top, and that became -20/24. Now I keep the denominator the same, and I just go through. And say -9 plus 18. That makes +9, right? Because 18 minus 9. 9 minus 20 is -11. -11/24. All right, let's get going here. We've got a lot of problems to do. I think we're going to do 16 problems total today. And so this is going to be a little bit longer. So stick with me. Fast forward. They're all going to be right in order. So if you're looking for one in particular, you see we're going to do all of example 3. And then we're going to do example 4. And it's A through H. So you can skip ahead to wherever you need to be. All right. For this one, we've got -3/4 and 2/3. I know I've got to get to 12. Oh, that's weird. Let's see here. Yeah, that's better. So we're going to take this, the 3 and the 4, we've got to get to 12. So we've got our 3/4 and we have our 2/3. So I'm going to multiply this one by 3 over 3. And I'll multiply this one by 4 over 4. Again, I did that because I knew I got to get to 12. I just know that 12 is the LCD between 3 and 4. There. Now, when I look at the numerators, I've got -3 times +3 is -9. And I've got 2 times 4 is +8. -9 plus 8 makes -1. -1/12. Here, between 12 and 8, one way to do LCDs is to just start writing out the multiples of them. 36, 48, 60, 72, and so on, right? And you do the same thing with 8s. I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but just in case someone is too stubborn to go back and look up LCDs. All right, so that means 24. 24 is our LCD. I've got to get both of these to be 24ths, right? What do we take times 12 to get to be 24? We multiply by 2 on bottom and top. So that'll be -14/24. On this one, what do we multiply by 8 to get to 24? We'll multiply by 3, bottom and top. So -14/24, +15. That's the same thing as 15 minus 14. If you want to, use the commutative property and put that over there, that just gets us 1/24. The larger number is positive, and therefore our answer will be positive. Okay, here we go. Between 5 and 12, this is a pretty large one, but the LCD is actually just 60. You could get that just by multiplying 12 here and 5 there. That's really ultimately what we end up doing. So we'll take this one times 12 on bottom and on top. and that'll get us 24. And 12 needs to be multiplied by 5 on bottom and top. That's going to make negative 55. Okay. Notice that the larger number here is a negative, and so we're going to end up having a negative answer when we do this. So we're going to take 55 and find the difference of 55 and 24. That's going to be 31. Then my answer ends up being negative, so negative 31/60. Nothing goes into that, and we're done. If you kind of forgot about that, one way to do this is to actually take 55 minus 24. I know it says it's the other way around, but if we do that, we get 31. And then you have to remember the larger number is negative, and so my final answer will retain the sign of the larger number. Okay, so if you kind of forgot about doing that, you just find the difference between the two and look and see which sign is larger, or which one has which number is larger in the sign that's attached to that. Okay. 8, 2, and 12, we've got to get to 24. 24 is a nice number. It has a lot of factors. Okay, so 8 times 3 is 24, so I must have to do 3 on bottom and top. 2 times 12 will get to 24, so I've got to do a 12 on bottom and top. And then keep in mind that's negative. And then over here, I've got to take this one times 2 to get to 24. So I do 2 on bottom and top. Looks like that. The only one that's negative is the one that's here in the middle. So I've got 9 minus 12 plus 14. Okay. So 9 minus 12 is negative 3. Negative 3 plus 14 makes positive 11. And we're done. Okay, so I noticed that I was taking away more than I had, so that took me down into the negative 3. The other thing you could do, if you wanted to reorder these and just do the positives, like you could do that. 9 and 14, like that makes 23. So you could put those together and make 23 24ths, and then subtract off your 12 24ths. 23 minus 12 is 11. Maybe you'd rather do it that way. Like nothing wrong with that. All right, here we go. For something like this now, I think it's probably easier to change this to a mixed number. So I will grab this. 5 times 2 is 10, and 3 makes 13 fifths. And down here I've got 7/10 negative. Ooh, look, we're adding 2 negatives. So that's going to make an even bigger negative, a number that's even more negative than what we started with. Now it's not negative 20/15. Please don't do that. I really hope no one was thinking about doing that. What we do need to do though is get common denominators. And so between 5 and 10, it's going to be 10. They'll both fit into 10. This one doesn't have to change at all. And this one over here, we're going to multiply that. We would take this times 2 on bottom, and so we'll take it times 2 on top as well. That gets me negative 26/10. This will turn into negative 33/10. Okay, the last one of these, and then we're going to move on to the next page, to example 4. It's a little bit more focused on subtracting numbers. But here, if you want to, you can do these with mixed numbers. This is a nice one to do with mixed numbers, actually. It's pretty straightforward. But maybe you don't want to. I don't know. So we'll do 8 times 3 is 24, plus 5 is 29/8. I'm going to take the negative and just put it right up on top. And then what we've got for this other one, we're going to take 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Now between 8 and 2, it's going to be 8ths. So I would ask myself, this first one doesn't need to change at all, but this one's got to get multiplied by a 4 on top and bottom. So that will become negative 20, negative 28. 29 minus 20 is 9, and that is a positive. So 9/8 is our final answer for that one. All right, let's move on and do a few more of these with some more negatives. I hope you're with me. I hope you're having fun with all of these fractions. Subtracting fractions. These get a little bit harder, but this ain't our first rodeo, right? We've done a lot with negatives in the past already. We know that what we're going to do is we can take this negative and just assign it right up here. We'll change this into plus a negative. So that what I've got now is negative 2/9 plus negative 5/12. And this one's a little trickier, but to get a common denominator for these, it's going to be 36. Remember, use your LCD to get that. Go back and look that up if you need to. So we will multiply the 9 times 4 to get there, and we'll take the 12 times 3 to get there. Because I know I got to think 12 times what is 36? 12 times 3 is 36. So that's negative 15/36. And this is negative 8. Now, hey, look, I know that this was minus before, a negative and subtracting more, but we did plenty of these. Negative plus negative makes an even bigger negative. Negative 23/36. Done. We don't got to make it hard. All right. This is where they do get a little tricky. Sometimes people see these parentheses and it makes their brain go all silly. But look at this, minus negative. When we have two negatives right next to each other like that, they become a positive. The opposite of an opposite is just it's back where you started, right? So this is really the same thing as 2/3 plus 4/5. Now what I want to do is make both of these into common denominators, which is 15ths. So I will multiply this one times 5. That gets me 10. And I'll multiply this one times 3. That gets me 12. There is no more negative here, right? Minus negative became plus a positive. We already took care of it. That's 22/15. And that is done. No, there is no common factor that goes into those. We can't reduce it any. Okay, more negatives. Man, we just keep getting more and more negative here. Sorry, I like to be a positive. I like to be upbeat, optimistic. Minus negative. There's no number in between here. We got that same thing going on. Minus and negative turns into plus a positive. So I could think of this as negative 5/6 plus 3/8. That's what I'm working with. So first thing I did was take care of my signs. Now that I took care of my signs, I got to get common denominators. We've done this one plenty of times already today, right? 6 and 8, that's going to be 24. So we'll say, what do we take times 6 to get there? We would take it times 4 on bottom and top. And we'll do this one times 3 on bottom and top. So that gets me to 20. And this one over here becomes 9. Now I'm gotta go back and revisit this. Keep in mind this is a negative sign. I hope you didn't get confused and think that's like the division sign there, the fraction sign. That's a negative. So negative 20/24 plus 9/24. The larger of the numbers is negative, and that's going to make my answer also be negative. Negative 11/24. For part D here, we got the same thing going on, this minus and negative. Minus and negative becomes plus a positive. And the nice part about this one is, you know what, 12ths, that's a good one. So we'll just keep both of these in terms of 12. This one stays. We don't got to change that one at all. The other one we got to multiply by a 4 on bottom and top. That will make negative 5/12 plus 8/12 makes positive 3/12. Now, my answer isn't 3/12 though, okay? Because this actually reduces. This is the first one we've had here in a while that we can actually reduce. And I know that 3 goes into each of those, right? We'll divide a 3 on top and bottom, and so that becomes 1/4. 1/4 is the final answer to that one. All right, good news. We actually only have these 4 left, and then we'll be done with this. So hopefully you haven't needed to watch all of these. Hopefully you've kind of been working ahead and only just popping in and checking in with me whenever you need it. Minus a negative, because just to say, like if all you're doing is just watching me do it and writing stuff down, that's probably not going to help. You need to be pausing the video, trying to work ahead now, because all this stuff should be kind of review. Work ahead, see how you do, and then watch me if you got something wrong. So we got minus the negative becomes plus a positive. Between ninths and twelfths, that's 36th. And so we'll take this one times 4, and we'll do this one times 3. So that's how I end up getting negative 20 36th plus 33 36th. And then 33 minus 20 is 13 36. That is a positive because 33 is larger than 20, and the 20 is negative, so the larger number is positive. Look at this, we got another one. Man, it's the same idea, right? Minus a negative. I know there's a lot of repetition here, but there's a saying that says practice makes progress, right? Well, you know what else practice does? Practice makes permanence. Some people say practice makes perfect, but I think it's really hard to be perfect at things. So practice makes progress. That's a really good one. Practice makes permanence. Do it over and over again, and then you'll remember it later when you need to. I hear all the time, hey, I know this. I know what I'm doing. I just couldn't do it on a test. And you know what? You didn't know it well enough. You got to practice it over and over and over again, and until it becomes like a language, until it becomes second nature to you. So this will be 24ths, 24ths. Now sometimes people do just mess up and forget something on a test, but more often than not, there's not enough practice to make it permanent. You do just enough to get by. That's not good enough. You got to make it permanent. So we're going to take this times 3 over 3. Right? That's going to make this one into 15 negative. And this one, we're going to multiply this by 2 and 2. That becomes 14. So now I have negative 15 plus 14 is negative 1 24th. There, now we can still see it. Okay. Man, we're getting close. I can feel it. I'm getting excited. We're almost done. 3 and 4 fifths. I'm going to multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 4 makes 19 fifths. Negative. I'm going to take that negative and assign it up here to the 2. So we'll write it like that. And now we'll go ahead and say I got to get common denominators, which is 15ths. So this first one's going to get multiplied by 3, right? So we'll take that times 3 on top and bottom. And the second one we're going to multiply times 5 on top and bottom. Now that's negative 57 for the first one, and it's negative 10 for the second one. Well, look at this. We got negative and a negative. Well, remember, when we're adding these, they become more negative. So this is actually negative 67 15ths. Nothing reduces. We're done. Last one. 4 times 5 plus 3 is 23 fourths. Minus a negative turns into plus a positive. There's no number in between. It's just minus minus. And those one big plus. Okay. And then we can say 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. Ooh, I did that quick. Hope you were with me. Got to get common denominators, which is going to be fourths. And so the first one doesn't change at all. That's just 23. The second one, we got to multiply this by 2 on top and bottom, and that will turn this into 6 fourths. Lastly, I get 29 fourths. There we go. 29 fourths is our final answer for that. That was a lot of work. That was a lot of practice. I hope it's permanent. I hope you did it right. If you didn't, maybe redo them. All right. Good luck.